Is my narcissist changing? You see, a lot of people wonder that question. A lot of people see at the end of the relationship, all of a sudden a change happens. They're like, wait a second. Or they see it with a new person. They're like, wait a second. It seems like they're changing. One of the biggest questions people ask is my narcissist changing? If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist. I'm the founder of Raw Motivations, creator of the NARC app, and your guide in the 45-day clarity challenge. Would love to have you subscribe for more tips about narcissism, inspiration, motivation as we talk through some of this. When we're talking through, is my narcissist changing? We're going to focus on a couple things as we talk through it today. We're going to focus on some fake vulnerability. We're going to focus on some fake change, and we're also going to focus on the idea that your hope is going to keep them linked in and have these like hope cycles in one sense of they're going to use your hope. Okay, I want you to be prepared to when you're in these situations wondering, is this person changing or not, to start getting tools and tips to be able to identify if you're getting played in a narcissist that's changing, but it actually isn't really transforming into being someone different. All they're doing is just modifying bits and pieces. When we talk about the idea of narcissists and changing, normally those are so polar opposite, we're just like, nope, doesn't happen. Like, it doesn't happen. They're not going to come to terms with who they are, not going to come to terms with what's going on. Narcissists don't change. And if you're in that camp, and if you understand the things that have happened in there, understand that, hey, the majority of narcissists do not change at all. The majority of narcissists, even when they become self-aware, typically do not change at all either. Just because a person is self-aware doesn't mean that they're actually implementing things into their life to change how they're showing up in those environments, to change oftentimes how they're showing up abusive. Just to make sure you understand, becoming self-aware or the narcissist understanding what they're doing doesn't mean that they're going to change. The second part about that is they have to actually want it. They actually have to want the change. It has to be something that's inside them, that comes from them of like, this is what I want to do, not I want to change to get this person, or I want to change to keep this relationship, or I want to change to look good in this aspect. It can't be any of those things because those things are very small and will not last long term when we're talking about change. Like I said, narcissists typically don't change, okay? Unaware and aware narcissists often get to the place that they don't even care. And what they'll do is they'll use behavioral modification to manipulate another person. So you understand, an unaware narcissist and even someone who's self-aware that doesn't care will also use behavioral modification to manipulate the other people, control the other people, all different aspects, okay? But behavior modification is, hey, I'm going to change this aspect of my behavior, but not what I want, not my heart, and not what I'm actually doing on the other side. A lot of times it's just an appearance, oftentimes a different mask. Well, a lot of times you'll see a change happen at the end of the relationship. Or when you get to the place that you're actually showing that you're going to stand up and you're going to leave that relationship, that's when you see this amazing change happen. It confuses a lot of people in a lot of different scenarios where they're like, wait a second, maybe I should stay. And they realize 3 months later that they shouldn't have stayed because it reverts back to the same thing. But when it comes to, okay, now I'm going to leave, it happens all over again. You see, you need to understand when a narcissist changes at the end of a relationship, or when you stand up for yourself, they didn't get this big epiphany. They didn't get this big like realization of like, now I'm an awful person, let me fix it. No, what they realize is their current pattern of manipulation is no longer effective to keep you under their control. So as a result, the manipulation tactic has to change. Well, I'll give this because this is what they've been wanting for such a long period of time, meaning that they know what they've been holding back. I'll change this aspect because I know this is what you want, and it keeps you a little bit longer. A lot of times a narcissist will change at the end of the relationship to keep you. In the relationship with my wife, I did this multiple times of where I'll get better, I'll get fixed, I'll work on this, etc., and get to the place of saying, hey, this is all good, we're all good now, right? But I didn't actually change me. Wasn't actually changing the thoughts, the actions, the behaviors. It was just, nope, looks better now, doesn't it? When I'm still doing the same things. Same aspect of like getting her a place of like, hey, I don't want you to leave, like make sure you stay. But I would be pushing her out the door and then begging her back. Same exact thing. The change that happens at the end of the relationship and after it's been put off the table is manipulation. All right, so I said we're going to talk about 3 things. Narcissists use fake vulnerability to play on your emotions. See, when we talk about building a foundation that's healthy, of a good relationship, you have to have honesty at its base. Like, you have to know that the person you're sitting across the table with actually is the real person and not a mask, not a different person than what they're portraying to be. So you have to have honesty to start off with. How I kind of view vulnerability is like honesty 2.0. It's not that you have to be honest about the past, the present, what's going on, but you have to also then be vulnerable about what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, and the emotions that are playing out in your life on a day-to-day basis. Typically, what we'll see narcissists that will bring vulnerability into the picture, but it is all past vulnerability. It's not current, present-day vulnerability saying, this is who I am, this is the emotions, this is the feelings, this is the thoughts, the stories that I'm telling myself, this is the stuff that I'm struggling with. We don't see that. We see, oh, I was abused as a kid. Oh, this past relationship really messed me up. This is something I'm struggling with because of the past. I did this because of the past. And all this stuff looks like vulnerability for a lot of people because it's real and it's like raw, like, oh man, that sucks. But it's used in a way to play on your emotions, to be able to get you to empathize for what they're going on and to play off your emotions to say, hey, I can actually control you by looking like the victim. Typically, vulnerability of the past is just a way to manipulate and justify the present day abuse. Vulnerability is needed to grow any type of relationship. You see, without vulnerability, the person can't change. They can't develop emotional intimacy. They can't get connected to other people. Like, that vulnerability has to be there to develop a healthy relationship. The problem is a lot of people have seen in abusive relationships that narcissists will use fake vulnerability to play on your emotions. The second thing is narcissists will change to keep you. Okay? When did the change actually happen? A lot of times I'll ask people, they'll be like, but it seems like they're changing. It seems like they're getting better. And I'm like, okay, but when did it actually happen? They're like, well, I finally said that I was going to leave. Well, that's why the change happened. You know, why did he actually get into therapy? Well, I said if you would get into therapy, then I'd stay with you. That's why they got into therapy. Well, if she would do this, then I would make sure I would stay. Well, that's why they made that change, because they know and understand what you're actually putting out there, but they choose to be able to pull it back, so you keep trying to get more, so you keep trying to come back, so you get addicted to that person. When you finally decide, hey, I don't need this in my life, they're like, wait a second, here you go. And they start to hand it back. They will change at the end of the relationship to keep you, to make sure that you're locked in. And typically that change happens after you decide to fight for yourself and to not yield to their manipulation anymore. Like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to stand up for myself. That's when a lot of times the change will magically take place. The thing you have to understand is when you take the relationship off the table, wait to see how long that change actually happens then. Oftentimes, the change is just to manipulate the relationship and to keep the relationship as a possibility in their lives. If I can keep the relationship as a possibility, then I'll keep doing whatever I need to do to make it happen, even though I'm not going to care or show any much difference, but I'll still manipulate to make sure I keep that and keep that facade, keep that image, keep that mask. Take the relationship off the table, see how much change happens then. Hey, we're never getting back together. Then watch what actually happens. A lot of times they just run to the next person. They can't be alone. All right, number 3. Narcissists count on your hope to keep you hooked. It's a great time to be able to say this around the holidays coming up. Narcissists will use different things in your life that you're hoping to be able to keep you hooked in their life. Oftentimes they're used intermittent reinforcement to keep you in that relationship. The push, the pull, the back, the forth, of like, oh, no, I'm going to do this. Nope, I'm not going to do this. Oh, hey, I love you. Oh, no, I don't love you. Like, oh, let's spend time together. Actually, I'm not going to show up. Like, all these different things of like, wait a second. And it keeps you on this roller coaster ride of not sure what's actually happening or who you can actually trust in the relationship. Maybe they'll like scream and say like, hey, this is awful. Like, I hate this. And then they'll hold on to you. Be like, why would you push them away? And then I'm going to hold you. Okay? And a lot of times they'll do that back and forth, that push-pull aspect for image. Of like, I don't want you in my life because I don't care about you. Oh, wait, I do care about you because I don't want everybody else to look at me and think that I'm the bad guy. So as a result, sometimes they'll go back and forth and make it even more confusing. And that's when they profess change, get you back, all kinds of things like this. You have to understand that hope is a powerful drug. And when wielded by a toxic person, it can produce very unsavory results. The problem is we start hoping, we start having a positive projection of what we're putting on the narcissist of like, no, like they do care, but then they're being abusive. No, they do love me, but then they're not showing up. No, they actually have been honest, but then they've been lying the whole time. Like we want to put an idea onto the narcissist of like, oh, they are a good person, when in reality, it's not actually being demonstrated that way. Hopefully that makes sense. Narcissists use fake vulnerability to play on your emotions. Narcissists will change to keep you, and narcissists count on your hope to keep you hooked. Last but not least, if you're struggling with some of these and you're like, wait a second, I don't actually understand, are they changing? Are they not changing? Would love to talk to you, would love to interact with you. Would also love to invite you to join in a 45-day clarity challenge that we run every single month. Go to claritychallenge.net to be able to get more information and understand that you can go through with a group of survivors to understand what is going on, to find yourself after the abuse and be able to say like, hey, this is who I am, this is the direction I'm going, I'm no longer taking this time for toxicity. If you guys like what you hear today, please subscribe.